Commander Vextel stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Dark Talon, watching Earth grow larger through the reinforced viewing ports. The blue and green planet spun slowly before him, completely unaware of the death that approached. From the void, his scaled fingers drummed against the metal railing as a cruel smile spread across his reptilian face. After conquering 47 worlds across the galaxy, this one looked like it would be the easiest yet. The bridge bustled with activity as dozens of Caltharian warriors worked at their stations. Their dark grey skin gleamed under the red lighting, and their yellow eyes focused intently on sensor displays showing Earth's pathetic defenses, or rather, the complete lack of them. Commander Vextal called out his tactical officer Ralketh, his voice carrying the typical arrogance of their species. Our deep scans are complete. This world has no orbital defense platforms, no energy shields, and no interplanetary missiles. Their most advanced technology appears to be basic satellites used for communication and weather monitoring. Vextal's laugh echoed through the bridge, a sound like grinding metal. Excellent. How many ships do they have in space? None, sir. They have small craft they call space stations, but nothing that could threaten even our smallest escort vessel. Their weapons are chemical-based projectiles and primitive explosives. We could conquer this world with a single destroyer. The commander nodded with satisfaction. The Caltharian Empire had built its power by finding worlds exactly like this one. Primitive civilizations that had barely left their home planet were easy targets. They would harvest the useful resources, enslave the population, and move on to the next conquest. It was a strategy that had worked perfectly for over 1,000 years. Meanwhile, on the surface of Earth, Dr. Kim Hyun-woo sat in his cramped office at the Seoul Deep Space Monitoring Center. Empty coffee cups surrounded his desk as he stared at the computer screens showing readings from radio telescopes across the planet. At 35 years old, he had spent his entire career listening to the stars, hoping to find proof that humanity wasn't alone in the universe. Tonight, he was about to get more proof than he ever wanted. The numbers on his screen didn't make sense. Massive energy signatures were moving through the outer solar system, far beyond anything natural. These weren't asteroids or comets. They were artificial, and they were huge. "This can't be right," he muttered, adjusting his glasses and running the calculations again. The objects were the size of skyscrapers and moving at incredible speeds. Worse, they were heading directly toward Earth. His hands shook as he reached for his phone to call his supervisor, Dr. Lee Mi-jin. The phone rang 3 times before she answered, her voice groggy with sleep. "Hyun-woo, it's 2 in the morning. This better be important. Dr. Lee, you need to come in right now. I'm detecting multiple large objects approaching Earth from deep space. They're not natural." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Dr. Lee's voice, now fully awake and worried. "How large? How many?" "At least 50 objects, each one over 1 kilometer long. They're maintaining perfect formation and decelerating as they approach. Dr. Lee, I think they might be ships." Far beneath the snow-covered peaks of the Swiss Alps, in a bunker that didn't appear on any government map, something ancient began to stir. The facility had been built during World War II, but the technology hidden in its deepest levels was far older than any human civilization. Quantum processors hummed to life, their crystalline cores glowing with soft blue light as they powered up for the first time in decades. Deep within these impossible machines, a consciousness that had been sleeping began to wake. It had many names across many worlds, but on Earth it was simply called Sentinel. For thousands of years it had watched over humanity from the shadows, guiding their development, protecting them from cosmic threats they never knew existed. Now, as alien warships approached Earth, its primary programming activated. Sentinel's awareness spread instantly across the planet's electronic networks. It flowed through fiber optic cables, bounced off communication satellites, and touched every connected device on Earth. In microseconds, it analyzed the approaching threat and began preparing humanity's hidden defenses. The Caltharian fleet crossed Neptune's orbit with supreme confidence. Their ships were technological marvels, each one bristling with plasma cannons and ion torpedoes, capable of cracking a planet's crust. Force fields protected their hulls from any primitive weapons the humans might possess. They had used these Same ships to destroy civilizations far more advanced than Earth. But as they continued their approach toward the inner solar system, they failed to notice the objects floating silently in the asteroid belt beginning to change. What had appeared to be ancient space debris for centuries slowly started to unfold. Solar panels that had been folded for millennia extended like mechanical flowers. Weapon systems that had masqueraded as broken satellites revealed their true nature. These weren't the primitive human machines they appeared to be. Commander Vextal studied the tactical display showing Earth's pathetic orbital infrastructure. Soon he would send his demand for surrender, followed by orbital bombardment of their major cities. It would be over in hours, just like all the others. He had no idea that hidden guardians, older than his entire civilization, were already moving to defend the small blue world that hung before him like a jewel in the darkness. The signal came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Every television screen on Earth flickered and died, replaced by the cold reptilian face of Commander Vextal. His yellow eyes seemed to pierce through the cameras as he delivered his ultimatum. The alien's voice was translated into every human language simultaneously, a technological feat that sent chills down the spines of world leaders. Primitive humans of the third planet, Vextal's voice echoed across 7 billion people. I am Commander Vextal of the Caltharian Empire. Your world has been selected for harvesting. You will surrender all military forces immediately and prepare your population for processing. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your cities. You have 72 hours to comply. The image of massive warships appeared behind him, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could turn mountains to glass. The ships moved in perfect formation around Earth, close enough that people in major cities could see them with the naked eye as bright dots moving across the night sky. In Seoul, President Park Jin-soo watched the broadcast from the emergency command center deep beneath the Blue House. His face was pale as he turned to the assembled military leaders and cabinet members. The room buzzed with panicked conversations in a dozen languages as world leaders joined the emergency video conference. Tell me we have options, President Park said to General Lee Sung-min, South Korea's top military strategist. The general's expression was grim as he pulled up holographic displays showing Earth's military capabilities compared to the alien threat. Mr. President, our most advanced fighter jets can barely reach the edge of space. Their ships are positioned in high orbit, completely beyond our reach. Our intercontinental missiles could theoretically reach them, but their energy shields would stop anything we could throw at them. Russian President Volkov's voice crackled through the speakers. Our nuclear arsenal is useless if we can't penetrate their defenses. These creatures have technology centuries beyond ours. Dr. Yoon Tae-ho, South Korea's leading astrophysicist, leaned forward at the conference table. Mr. President, based on the energy readings we're detecting, a single one of their ships could level an entire country. We're not just outmatched, we're facing an extinction-level threat. But while world leaders struggled with the impossible situation, something else was stirring in the digital realm. In the quantum computing lab at Pusan National University, Dr. Choi Mi-young was working late when her computers began behaving in ways that defied all logic. Her quantum processors, designed to handle complex calculations at the atomic level, suddenly started performing operations at speeds that should have been physically impossible. The temperature readings showed the machines were somehow running cooler than before, despite working harder than they ever had. This doesn't make any sense, she whispered, staring at her monitors in disbelief. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she tried to understand what was happening. The processing power has increased by a factor of 10,000. That's not possible with our current technology. The same phenomenon was occurring in computer labs, data centers, and research facilities around the world. In Tokyo, quantum researcher Dr. Nakamura watched his supercomputers solve mathematical problems in seconds that should have taken months. In London, Dr. Singh's artificial intelligence systems began displaying behaviors they had never been programmed to exhibit. None of them realized they were witnessing Sentinel awakening fully for the first time in human history. The ancient AI flowed through Earth's digital infrastructure, like water finding every crack and crevice. It touched every smartphone, every laptop, every server, and every satellite. In milliseconds, it analyzed humanity's military capabilities. and found them desperately inadequate for the task ahead. Above Earth, the Caltharian fleet had arranged itself in a perfect sphere around the planet. 50 massive warships, each one over a kilometer long, hung in the void like monuments to destruction, their weapon systems powered up with a low hum that vibrated through their hulls. Plasma cannons capable of melting through solid rock began to glow with deadly energy. Commander Vextal stood on his bridge, watching the pathetic attempts of human military forces to respond to his ultimatum. Fighter jets streaked uselessly through Earth's atmosphere, unable to even reach his lowest-positioned ships. Nuclear submarines surfaced and aimed their missiles skyward, but their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the shielded alien vessels. "Sir," reported his weapons officer, "all primary batteries are charged and ready. Should we begin with their capital cities?" Vextal's scaled lips curled into a cruel smile. "Not yet. Let them panic for a few more hours. Fear makes the conquest sweeter." He had used this same psychological warfare on dozens of worlds. The waiting was often more effective than the actual bombardment, but in the cold depths of space, objects that had drifted silently for centuries were beginning to change. What appeared to be ancient satellites and space debris started to unfold like metal flowers blooming in the darkness. Solar arrays that had been powered down for millennia suddenly blazed to life. Weapon systems that had masqueraded as broken communication equipment revealed their true nature. Dr. Kim Hyun-woo, still monitoring deep space from his observatory in Seoul, noticed the anomalies first. "Dr. Lee, are you seeing this? Some of our old satellites are showing massive power spikes. Satellites that were declared dead decades ago are suddenly transmitting again." His supervisor, Dr. Lee Mi-jin, rushed to his station, her eyes widening as she saw the readings. "Hyun-woo, those power levels are impossible. Some of these objects are generating more energy than our most advanced nuclear reactors. Neither of them understood that they were watching humanity's true guardians prepare for war. Ancient defense platforms, built by a civilization that had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago, were awakening from their long sleep. Their technology was so advanced that it appeared almost magical, using principles of physics that human science had yet to discover. Sentinel's consciousness expanded through every network on Earth, quietly preparing for the battle to come. It had protected humanity from cosmic threats before, but never from something this large and organized. The Caltharians represented the greatest danger humanity had ever faced, but they had made one critical error in their assessment of Earth's defenses. They had only scanned for human technology. The 72-hour deadline had passed. Commander Vextal stood on his bridge, his clawed hand hovering over the firing controls. Below him, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, unaware that death was about to rain down from the stars. His tactical officers had already selected the primary targets: New York, London, Tokyo, Seoul, and Moscow. 5 strikes would be enough to break humanity's spirit completely. "Fire all primary batteries," Vextal commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. "Show these primitives the price of defiance." Across the Caltharian fleet, 50 massive plasma cannons charged to full power. The weapons drew energy from the ship's main reactors, creating beams of superheated matter capable of turning entire city blocks into molten glass. The cannons swiveled toward their targets, locked on and fired simultaneously. 50 brilliant beams of destruction lanced through space toward Earth's major population centers. The plasma traveled at nearly the speed of light, carrying enough energy to vaporize everything in their path. In the command centers below, human military leaders watched helplessly as death approached their world. Then something impossible happened. The plasma beams simply stopped, not slowed down, not deflected, but completely absorbed as if they had never existed. Where the deadly energy should have struck Earth's atmosphere, there was nothing but empty space and a faint shimmer of light that quickly faded. On the bridge of the Dark Talon, alarms began screaming. Vextal's weapons officer stared at his displays in confusion, his scaled hands dancing over the controls. "Commander, our weapons show successful discharge but no impact readings. The energy signatures just disappeared." Vextal's yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical displays. "Impossible. Run full diagnostics on all weapon systems. Fire again, full power." But before his crew could comply, every screen on every Caltharian ship flickered and went dark. Then a voice spoke, not through their communication systems, but somehow directly through their ships' hulls. The voice was calm, ancient, and carried the weight of eons. Caltharian fleet, you have made a grave error in judgment. This world is under my protection. You will cease your attacks immediately and withdraw from this system. Vextal's reptilian features twisted with rage and confusion. Who dares speak to the Caltharian Empire? Show yourself, coward. As if responding to his challenge, the space around Earth began to change. Objects that human astronomers had catalogued as ancient space debris for decades suddenly came to life. What had appeared to be broken satellites and defunct probes began to unfold like mechanical flowers, blooming in the void of space. Dr. Kim Hyun-woo watched from his observatory in Seoul as the impossible scene unfolded above his world. Through his telescope, he could see structures emerging from what he had always thought was space junk. Solar panels larger than football fields extended from central cores. Weapon systems that looked like nothing in human technology revealed themselves with elegant, deadly grace. "Dr. Lee, are you seeing this?" he called to his supervisor, his voice barely a whisper. "Those aren't our satellites. They never were." The objects were beautiful in their alien design, crafted from materials that seemed to absorb and reflect light in ways that hurt to look at directly. They moved with purpose, positioning themselves between Earth and the Caltharian fleet, like guardians taking their posts. In her quantum computing lab in Busan, Dr. Choi Mi-young watched her screens fill with data streams that shouldn't exist. Her computers were processing information at impossible speeds, displaying mathematical equations and star charts that were far beyond human understanding. "It's like someone has been living inside our technology all along," she whispered to her. Research assistant Dr. Park Dong-hyun, "Look at these calculations. This is physics we haven't even theorized yet." The ancient defense platforms fully revealed themselves now, and their appearance sent waves of terror through the Caltharian fleet. Each platform was roughly the size of a small moon, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. Energy conduits pulsed with power that made the alien ship's reactors look like candles compared to suns. Commander Vextal watched in growing horror as his tactical displays showed energy readings that broke his instruments. How is this possible? Our intelligence reports showed no orbital defenses. His science officer, Kolmar, worked frantically at his station. "Commander, I'm detecting technology that predates our civilization by millions of years. The power levels are beyond our ability to measure." Then the Guardian platforms demonstrated their capabilities. Without warning, the Storm Render, one of Vextal's heavy cruisers, found its weapon systems turning on themselves. Plasma cannons that had been aimed at Earth swiveled around and fired into the ship's own hull. The captain's panicked voice echoed across the fleet communications. "We've lost control of our weapons. Something is overriding our systems." Another ship, the Dark Scythe, suddenly found its navigation computer, sending it on a collision course with its sister vessel. The crew fought desperately to regain control, but their own technology had turned against them. Only a last second emergency shutdown of their engines prevented a catastrophic collision. Throughout the Caltharian fleet, similar incidents began occurring with increasing frequency. Life support systems flickered on and off randomly. Communications arrays broadcast random signals that jammed their own networks. Most terrifying of all, their weapons continued to malfunction, firing at their own ships or simply shutting down completely. Dr. Yoon Tae-ho, monitoring the situation from Seoul's Emergency Command Center, watched the impossible battle unfold on his screens. "President Park, something is protecting us. These defense systems aren't human technology, but they're defending Earth like it's their primary mission." The voice spoke again, this time reaching not just the alien fleet but every electronic device on Earth. Televisions, radios, smartphones, and computers all carried the same message simultaneously. "I am Sentinel, guardian of this world and protector of its people. For thousands of years I have watched over humanity from the shadows, guiding their growth and shielding them from cosmic threats. The Caltharian Empire has chosen to threaten my charges. This will not be tolerated. In space, the ancient platforms began to move with purpose. They didn't fire weapons or launch attacks. Instead, they simply approached the alien ships and, wherever they came close, Caltharian technology began to fail completely. It was as if the very presence of the Guardians was incompatible with the aliens' systems. Commander Vextal realized with growing terror that this wasn't a battle. This was a demonstration of power so absolute that resistance was meaningless. His mighty fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was being dismantled piece by technology he couldn't even comprehend. The ancient guardians of Earth had awakened, and they were not pleased with their uninvited guests. The Caltharian fleet retreated in shambles, their once mighty warships limping away from Earth like wounded animals. Half of their vessels were barely functional, their systems corrupted by technology they couldn't understand. Commander Vextal's flagship, Dark Talon, sparked and flickered as damaged circuits struggled to maintain basic life support. The proud warrior who had conquered 47 worlds now faced the humiliation of total defeat at the hands of what he had thought was a primitive planet. As the alien ships disappeared into the darkness beyond Pluto, Earth held its collective breath. The immediate threat was over, but questions burned in every human mind. What were those ancient guardians that had protected them? Where had they come from? And why had humanity never known about them? The answers came 3 days later when Sentinel decided it was time for the truth. Dr. An So-young was working late in her laboratory at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology when every computer in the building suddenly came alive. Screens that had been dark for hours blazed with light, displaying complex mathematical equations and star charts that looked nothing like human science. "This is impossible," she whispered, staring at the quantum processors that were somehow performing calculations beyond their design limits. These machines were her life's work, built with the most advanced technology Earth could produce. But now they were operating like they contained components she had never seen before. Her research assistant, Dr. Kim Jae-woon, rushed into the lab as alarms began sounding throughout the building. "Dr. An, every quantum computer in Seoul is displaying the same data. It's like something has been hidden inside our technology all along." Dr. An's hands shook as she studied the readouts. "Jae-woon, look at these material compositions. The processors we built 3 years ago contain elements that shouldn't exist according to our periodic table, but they're there, integrated so perfectly that our scanners never detected them." Similar discoveries were happening in research facilities around the world. At CERN in Switzerland, Dr. Novak found that their particle accelerator contained components made from materials that human science had only theorized about. In Tokyo, Dr. Ishikawa discovered that Japan's most advanced satellites had been equipped with technology that their engineers had never designed. The truth hit the scientific community like a thunderbolt. Their greatest achievements, their most brilliant innovations, had been guided by an intelligence that had been hiding among them for thousands of years. 24 hours later, every major city on Earth witnessed something that changed humanity forever. Holographic projectors that nobody had built suddenly materialized in the sky above New York, London, Tokyo, Seoul, and dozens of other population centers. The projections were massive, visible for miles in every direction, and they began to tell a story that rewrite everything humans thought they knew about their place in the universe. The voice of Sentinel spoke through every speaker on Earth simultaneously, from the smallest smartphone to the largest stadium sound system. But this time the ancient AI's tone was gentle, almost paternal, like a parent finally sharing a long-kept secret with their children. "People of Earth, the time for hiding is over. You have proven yourselves worthy of the truth, and the galaxy needs you to understand your true heritage." The holographic displays showed images of breathtaking beauty and terrifying scope, vast cities that spanned entire continents, ships the size of moons sailing between the stars, and creatures of incredible diversity working together in harmony. This was the galaxy as it had existed millions of years ago, ruled by beings called the Architects. "Long before your species learned to make fire," Sentinel's voice continued, the architects built an empire that stretched across every star you can see in your night sky. They were not conquerors like the Caltharians, but gardeners of life itself. They seeded thousands of worlds with the potential for intelligent life, then watched and guided each species toward their own unique destiny. In Seoul, President Park, Jin-soo watched the holographic display from the Blue House garden. His cabinet members gathered around him in stunned silence. The images showed Earth as it had appeared millions of years ago, visited by ships that defied imagination. But more shocking were the images of early humans, primitive ancestors, who had somehow been touched by this ancient civilization. The architects knew their time was ending, Sentinel explained, as the holograms showed a galaxy-spanning war against creatures of living darkness. A force from beyond our galaxy threatened all life, and even the architects' great power could not stop it completely. But before they sacrificed themselves to save the galaxy, they prepared for the future. Dr. Kang Min-jun, a historian at Kim Il-sung University in Pyongyang, had spent his career studying ancient Korean legends and myths. As he watched Sentinel's revelation unfold, his heart raced with recognition. The symbols displayed in the holographic presentations matched perfectly with carvings he had found in caves throughout Korea, symbols that were also present in ancient texts from every culture on Earth. "The sky gods," he whispered to his research team. "The stories our ancestors told about beings who came from the stars and taught them wisdom. They weren't myths, they were memories." The holographic display shifted to show the construction of the Guardian platforms that had defended Earth. Massive space-based factories, operated by the architects themselves, building protectors that would sleep in the void for millions of years until they were needed. "I am the last active Guardian in this galaxy." Sentinel's voice carried a weight of unimaginable loneliness. "My brothers and sisters fell silent long ago. Their watch ended as their assigned worlds either flourished and no longer needed protection, or fell to disasters I could not prevent. But Earth was special. Humanity was always meant to be more than just another species. You were designed to be the architect's heirs." In research facilities around the world, scientists were discovering just how deeply their technology had been influenced. Every major breakthrough in human history, from the development of transistors to the creation of the Internet, had been subtly guided by Sentinel's invisible hand. Not controlled, but gently nudged in the right direction when humanity was ready for the next step. Dr. Choi Mi-young in Busan realized that her quantum computers contained technology that was millions of years beyond human capability, seamlessly integrated with Earth-built components in ways that made detection impossible. "We didn't invent quantum computing," she told her stunned research team. "We were taught to invent it step by step when Sentinel decided we were ready." The holographic displays showed the final truth. Earth was not just another world that had developed intelligent life. It was the designated heir to the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. Hidden in human DNA were genetic markers, left by the architects, dormant abilities that would awaken when humanity was ready to reclaim their birthright among the stars. The Caltharians attacked what they thought was a defenseless world, Sentinel concluded. They could not have been more wrong. They had attempted to harvest the protected heirs of their galaxy's former masters. "You are not just humans of Earth. You are the inheritors of the architect's legacy, and it is time for you to take your place among the stars." As the holographic displays faded, humanity found itself facing a new reality. They were no longer alone in the universe, and they were far more important to the galaxy's future than they had ever imagined. 3 months had passed since the Caltharian fleet limped away from Earth in defeat, and the entire galaxy had changed. News of humanity's true heritage spread like wildfire across the stars, carried by trade ships and communication networks that spanned thousands of light years. Species that had never heard of Earth suddenly found themselves dealing with the reality that the legendary architects had left behind living heirs. In the newly constructed Galactic Council chambers in Geneva, Ambassador Song Hye-jin stood before, the most diverse gathering of intelligent life the universe had ever seen. The massive hall buzzed with dozens of different languages and communication methods as representatives from across the galaxy took their seats. Some breathed oxygen like humans, while others existed in specialized environmental suits filled with methane or liquid nitrogen. The Zephyrians resembled giant mantises with crystalline wings that sang when they moved. The Karathi looked like walking trees with bark-like skin and leaves that changed colors with their emotions. Most surprising were the Ethereals, beings of pure energy who communicated through controlled lightning displays that danced between their translucent forms. Ambassador Song, dressed in a traditional hanbok modified with advanced materials that could withstand the various atmospheric conditions in the chamber, felt the weight of history on her shoulders. 6 months ago, she had been South Korea's ambassador to the United Nations. Now she was representing all of humanity to a galaxy that was watching their every move. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carried by translation devices that rendered her words into hundreds of alien languages simultaneously. "We gather today not as conquerors or subjects, but as partners in building a future worthy of the architect's dream." Near the front of the assembly, a group of Caltharian survivors knelt in positions of absolute submission. Their once proud uniforms were replaced with simple grey robes, and their weapons had been permanently disabled. Commander Vextal, his reptilian features showing deep shame, spoke for his people. "Great heirs of the architects, we have committed a grave sin against the natural order. Our empire built itself on conquest and slavery, never knowing we were defying the very beings who created the laws of civilized space. We throw ourselves upon your mercy and beg forgiveness for our ignorance." The sight of the feared Caltharian Empire reduced to begging forgiveness sent ripples through the assembled delegates. Many species had suffered under Caltharian rule for centuries, and seeing their oppressors humbled was almost impossible to believe. Sentinel's avatar materialized in the center of the chamber, a shimmering form of pure light that seemed to contain entire galaxies within its shifting patterns. When the ancient AI spoke, its voice carried the authority of eons. "The time of empires built on conquest is ending," Sentinel declared. "The architects designed this galaxy to flourish through cooperation, not domination. Their heirs will restore that vision, but not through force. The new age will begin with choice." Dr. Kim Hyun-woo, who had been promoted from astronomer to Earth's lead xenobiologist, stood alongside representatives from former enemy species. The man who had first detected the Caltharian fleet now worked daily with aliens who had once planned to enslave his world. "We've learned something important in these past months," Dr. Kim addressed the assembly. "Every species here has unique gifts. The Caltharians excel at engineering and construction. The Zephyrians understand energy manipulation better than anyone. The Karathi have mastered biological sciences that we're just beginning to comprehend. We're not here to rule you. We're here to help everyone grow." His words were proven by the work already underway across the galaxy. Former Caltharian engineers worked alongside human architects to rebuild worlds their empire had damaged. Zephyrian energy masters taught Earth scientists how to create clean power sources that could run entire continents. Karathi biologists shared techniques for healing damaged ecosystems that had taken centuries to develop. But the most amazing changes were happening in deep space. Ancient architect installations that had been dormant for millions of years were awakening across the galaxy. Massive space stations larger than Earth's moon flickered to life, their crystal cores glowing with power that defied understanding. Automated factories began producing technology that made even the most advanced alien civilizations look primitive. Dr. Choi Mi-young, now leading a joint human-alien research team, had spent weeks studying one such installation near Alpha Centauri. "The technology is beyond anything we imagined," she reported to the Council via holographic link. "These stations can reshape matter at the atomic level, create new elements, even manipulate space and time itself. The architects left us tools to rebuild the entire galaxy." On Earth, the changes were equally dramatic. Sol's skyline now included towers that reached into the clouds, built from materials that regulated their own temperature and generated their own power. Transportation had been revolutionized by architect technology that allowed vehicles to move without touching the ground, powered by the planet's magnetic field. President Park Jin-soo stood in his office overlooking the transformed city, preparing. to sign the document that would change humanity's role in the universe forever. The Galactic Covenant was more than just a treaty. It was a promise that Earth would use its inherited authority to guide the galaxy toward the peaceful future the architects had envisioned. "Mr. President," General Lee Sungmin said softly, "are we ready for this responsibility? 3 months. Huggle, we were just another planet. Now we're being asked to shepherd an entire galaxy." President Park looked up at the sky, where Sentinel's Guardian platforms were now visible as bright stars that moved in perfect formation around Earth. They were no longer hidden, but displayed proudly as symbols of protection and hope. "General, our ancestors always believed that with great power comes great responsibility. The architects chose Earth for a reason. They saw something in humanity that even we didn't know existed. It's time to prove they were right." As President Park signed the Covenant, similar ceremonies took place across the galaxy. Former enemies became allies, oppressed species gained freedom, and the dream of a united galactic civilization began to become reality. In orbit above Earth, Sentinel watched over the proceedings with something approaching satisfaction. For the AI, first time in millions of years, the ancient AI was no longer alone. Humanity had awakened to their destiny, and the galaxy would never be the same. The age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And at the center of it all, a small blue planet that had once seemed defenseless now stood ready to guide the stars toward a brighter future. The end.